It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. It appears that Wizards of the Coast is trying to secretly sabotage the legacy format, leading to its decline. On top of that, there's a new signature slab scam that's causing problems in the world of Magic, and there's bad news for people who are not fans of Universe Beyond cards.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a stunning installment of Mega Magic News. We've got the insane legacy situation. We've got the bizarre scam situation, news about universes beyond, but everything we're going to talk about today isn't just negative. We do have a fun bonus card from the Sheldon secret layer, and when it comes to Bloomborough, it looks like that set is shaping up quite well, especially in the story department. Wizards of the Coast has put out a bunch of lore, and I have made 4 videos on the Bloomborough story over on my Fantasy Geographic channel. So there's only one more installment. It's coming out tomorrow. If you want to be up to speed on that, I'll leave a link at the end of the video for you. I am very happy to see that Wizards is putting genuine effort into the lore. Unlike Thunder Junction, which story was kind of throwaway, same with Markov Manor, it appears that when they said they were going to put more effort into the lore going forwards, Bloomborough is proving that to be true. And actually, the Planeswalker's Guide that they released for Duskmourn also shows that they're putting a bunch of effort into world building, which is quite heartening to see. So I figured I would mention something positive before we dive into the decidedly negative news. Let us start out with the biggest item on our list, which is the sabotaging of legacy, which is really the only way that I can view this. You either look at it as intentional sabotage or complete ineptitude. Neither of those is acceptable. Legacy is absolutely falling apart from not being managed properly. So we're going to talk about specifically what's going on with it. You'll have noticed, if you've been paying attention to the recent bans, that Wizards said, Legacy's fine, we're not going to do anything with it. Maybe we'll take some action when we're dealing with the August banned and restricted announcement. But this has caused huge problems for Legacy because there were already dominant strategies that were causing problems, but with the addition of Modern Horizons, it's amped things up to the next level and causing people a bunch of grief. Now, that's actually the card we're specifically going to talk about here. This is the top of the problem list for Legacy that's literally warping it so much that big Legacy tournaments are being straight up canceled because Wizards hasn't managed the format properly. So, to understand what's going on with Legacy, you need to understand that it is a super old school format that allows virtually all of the cards that exist in Magic the Gathering to be played in it, which leads to some pretty degenerate nonsense. But that's the way Legacy's players like it. Mostly. There's a certain level when things become too dominant where you have to step in and say, yo, we're going to kick this card to the curb. And Grief is specifically the card that is causing the biggest problems in Legacy right now and absolutely should have already eaten a ban, but hasn't. So if you're somehow not aware of Grief, I'll put it up on the screen for you real quick to take a look at because you need to understand the card. This is, look at the casting cost. The casting cost is irrelevant. The whole thing about this card is the fact that you can play it for free with its evoke cost without spending any mana. All you have to do is remove a card from your hand to put this guy out, right? Now, obviously, you have to sack it right away when you play it that way, but it doesn't matter because the point is Grief is there to strip cards out of your opponent's hands. Yo, I'm going to look at your hand and take the best card away from it, right? And then after Grief has hit the graveyard, the idea is to play Reanimate on it. So for 1 black mana, you can pop him back onto the board. Again, looking at your opponent's hand and stripping another card. So on the very first turn, you have a 3/2 that is difficult to block on top of taking your opponent's best 2 cards from their hand. And this is a big problem for Magic, where Wizards has moved more and more into avoiding casting costs with free ways to play cards, and this circumvents the entire balancing mechanic of Magic. Casting costs are how you balance cards in this game. So the fact that you can do this is a big problem. The bigger problem is the main answer that Legacy has to insanely quick plays is Force of Will, right? Force of Will has been around since the Alliance days, and it's an absolutely insanely powerful spell that lets you remove a blue spell from your hand, pay 1 life, and then you can counter any spell. So, under previous circumstances, if your opponent had some bonkers first turn play, you could just Force of Will the key piece of it and go, what are you going to do, right? But the Grief Reanimate scenario completely gets around that, because it goes like this. Either I play Grief, look at your hand, make you get rid of a card, and then bring it back and make you get rid of another card, or I play Grief, you go, I'll Force of Will it. And then it's like, okay, so you lose your Force of Will, you lose the extra blue card, Grief goes to the graveyard, and then I turn around and reanimate Grief from my graveyard anyway. So now instead of getting 2 cards from your hand, I've gotten 3 cards from your hand, and I've taken away your ability to stop the other things that I'm going to do. The deck got more powerful when they put out that crazy 6/5 troll. It's up on the screen right now. A 6/5 troll that can only be blocked by like 3 or more creatures, but the craziest part is it has swamp cycling for 1 mana. So you can just pitch this guy into your graveyard and bam, reanimate him for more insanity. So that amped up the power of the deck. And then Psychic Frog comes along in Modern Horizons 3 and goes, check it out. I'm black-blue. I can be pitched to Grief. I can be pitched to Force of Will, because the Grief decks also use Force of Will to back up their strategy, right? So Psychic Frog, on top of that, lets you pitch other cards into your graveyard to be reanimated, thus amping the strength level up of the deck to absolutely insane proportions. So it's gotten to the point where major tournaments playing for thousands and thousands of dollars, legacy events, are going, okay, we've decided we're just going to cancel our event because the meta has been completely ruined. Everybody is going to play this Grief nonsense or something else that's going to try and combat it. Basically, it's turning into a 1-deck format because the Grief deck is so incredibly strong that you'd be insane not to play it. You're going to like turn away your best opportunity for winning, especially when thousands of dollars are on the line. So Wizards of the Coast hasn't banned Grief. Stores look at it and go, okay, what do we do? Well, we could create our own ban list, but that doesn't work. That fractures the format, and it's going to create a really bad situation. Imagine you went to go and play in a standard tournament for thousands of dollars, and you paid your entry fee, got into it, and then you found out some cards that aren't on Wizards' official ban list for standard aren't usable in this event. You're going to have really bad feels. You might demand your money back. It's going to create a very bad tournament environment. So game stores can't create their own ban list. So that's out the window. So instead they're turning around and going, we're canceling this. Wizards of the Coast literally said, we don't have to do anything about Legacy because there's no big tournaments coming up, so we can just wait and see what Modern Horizons 3 is going to do. But here's the insidious part. First of all, they reprinted Grief in Modern Horizons 3 as a special guest. So they have a financial incentive to not ban Grief. Not only is it in Modern Horizons 2, but now it's also in Modern Horizons 3, which is the current gem that Wizards is trying to get all that money from. So they've got a situation where they're saying, oh, well, you know, we definitely don't want to ban Grief, but what if I was to tell you that Wizards of the Coast has a legacy expert on staff? And what if I was to tell you that that legacy expert specifically told Wizards of the Coast to ban Grief, right? These are the people, this expert already knows what's in Modern Horizons 3 and knows there's no answers that are going to fix the Grief situation. And yet Wizards of the Coast ignored that advice and went, no bans. So they're literally, essentially, abdicating responsibility for the legacy format. And there's multiple reasons for that as far as I'm concerned. First of all is the fact that grief is literally in Modern Horizons 3, and you don't want one of your big special mega value cards to be tanking downwards. Now, grief can be used in other things, so it's not like it's going to go to zero if it gets banned in Legacy, but it will reduce demand, and Wizards can just go, oh, we didn't really think about that. But on another level, I think what's going on is Wizards of the Coast has decided that Legacy isn't worth the time for them, because ultimately Legacy uses a lot of old school cards that Wizards can't reprint. On top of that, very few new cards actually make a big dent in the format. Some may be picked up here or there. One or two cards might come in, but it doesn't really shake up Legacy when they release new modern set like formats for Modern Horizons 3, things like that. I should say not formats, but sets, right? So when they release these sets, they don't shake up Legacy the same way that they shake up Modern, right? And Wizards wants that shake up because they want you to buy a bunch of singles. So Legacy is hobbled by the fact that there's a bunch of reserved list cards that Wizards can't reprint. We all remember how badly Magic 30 went, so there's nowhere for them to go in that regard. And there's not that many cards coming into Legacy, but Modern is a format that they can shake up whenever they want. Oh, look, we printed One Ring and Bowmasters into Modern. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's going crazy. Look at the new stuff that's just come along with Modern Horizons 3 and how Nadu has made insane waves in Modern, changing what people are playing. Some people trying to play with the new RAL medallion combo. Oh, maybe I can speed up enough to beat them out or whatever. But either way, Modern Horizons 3 is shaping the entire meta, which is what Wizards wants. They want to be able to keep selling stuff into the format. So you've got Legacy where they can barely make any kind of dent. So why not just let it languish? Why not let tournaments get canceled? Why not let people get frustrated and float out of the format and go, well, you know, if Legacy's not doing it for you, think about how big Modern is and everything Modern has to offer, right? So this could easily be an underhanded way to shunt people out of Legacy and into Modern. Now, we'll have to see what happens in August with the bannings. If they don't ban Grief in August, then I absolutely believe they're intending to destroy Legacy. They don't want the bad publicity of just coming out and going, we're ending the Legacy format, because first of all, like I said, it's bad publicity. But secondly, all the people who play Legacy would just be like, oh, well, if you're just not going to handle the format, we'll create like a Legacy committee and we'll keep Legacy going. And then all of a sudden, that's completely out of Wizards' hands. So there's no easy answer for them to just end Legacy. So what they have to do is just start putting in pain points that make it harder and harder for people to want to play Legacy, right? So ultimately, Legacy serves to help keep old school cards expensive, and having old school, like the reserve list old school stuff be expensive does add a level of prestige to what Wizards is doing overall, like as the card game. Check out these old expensive cards. People pay $500 for dual lands. But other than that, it doesn't really serve them. Magic 30 was their attempt to extract $1,000 a go for 4 booster packs, taking advantage of the reserve list stuff with that whole, check it out, we gave it a gold back kind of maneuver. But that failed miserably. So they may have just decided that the reserve list will only be touched in times of absolute disaster when the game is massively failing and they don't have to worry about lawsuits. And in the meantime, they're going to push all their focus on getting people into Modern, because it does seem like everything they're doing now cares about Modern and Commander only. Everything else is an afterthought. Although, to be fair, they did recently announce the Foundation set, which is meant to try and revitalize Standard to a degree and create an onboard for new players, and I do like that. So it's not like they've completely forgotten about the other formats, but I feel like Standard, obviously, they can keep printing sets into. Legacy, not at all. And the fact that they're saying there are no big tournaments, and tournaments, there are actually big tournaments. There are multiple Legacy events that are going to happen, but they're just pretending like it's not happening, or most of the people aren't paying attention. But regardless, they literally have an expert in the format who told them to ban Grief, and they intentionally chose not to. So as far as I'm concerned, that to me says Legacy is in the crosshairs to get the boot. Now, let's move on to talking about the crazy slab scam. If you don't know what I mean when I say slabs, I mean graded Magic cards that come in these plastic cases. I have a old school Fear here with the fun artwork from back in the day. Man, this is the 1993 is when this was printed. This is an Alpha Fear. 2 black for an enchant creature that makes it so the creature can't be blocked unless they're blocked by black or artifact creatures. It's funny how weak this is by today's standards. Just some of the creatures that we looked at today have way better than Fear built in. You got to block me with 3 creatures. I got Menace, right? So interesting enough that the power level of the game has changed. Either way, what's going on with slabs is apparently there is a new type of grading where you can get a slabbed card where the only thing they authenticate is the actual signature on the card. So it can be a literal slabbed fake Magic card, like a counterfeit Magic card, but with an authentic signature on it. And the grading company just authenticates the signature, which makes people think when they see it, oh, look, this is a graded dual land, or this is some other graded old epic card. I'm going to buy that. And then when they get it, they're finding out, wait a minute, this card looks so fake that I can tell without even opening up the case that it's a fake card. And they literally, the company is just, well, we guarantee you that the signature on the card is the legit signature of the artist. But the Magic card itself isn't legitimate. Over time, I feel like card grading has become more of a dicey game where you're finding counterfeit cards graded. There have been counterfeit cards that were graded before where people submitted them to the company and they just didn't realize it and graded it. But this is one where they're the signatures are literally authentic, but the card isn't. That's a brand new level of insanity. Things have gotten crazier for the grading companies. You'll find them mislisting cards where they'll have cards with the little from the list. The grading companies can't seem to tell what's up with Magic anymore because Wizards has made a bajillion different variations of cards and reprintings and stuff. So graded slabbed stuff is at an all-time low for trustworthiness. And I wanted to get the word out about that. Be aware if you're buying slabbed signed cards that it might just be the signature that's legit and the card you're buying is fake. All right? Next item on the list is bad news for Universe Beyond haters. When it comes to Universe Beyond, apparently, according to Mark Rosewater, they have done a poll asking people, hey, how would you feel about a format where Universe Beyond cards weren't allowed into it? And according to their market research, only 7% of respondents were interested in that. So 93% were either interested in having formats that have Universe Beyond or completely indifferent. That's less than 10%. So there is zero chance on Earth that Wizards will ever make a Universe Beyond list format where you're not allowed to play with Universe Beyond stuff in it. Essentially, this is going to turn into Commander Rule 0 level stuff where you're going to have to agree with your friend group not to allow Universe Beyond stuff. And I feel like it's not going to take too long before the people who really hate Universes Beyond have all migrated out of the game because Wizards has gone so scattershot with Universe Beyond stuff, they've hit a lot of different people's likes. And even when I mentioned the Taylor Swift Universe Beyond as a possibility, there were people going, I'd snap that up. My wife would get into the game for that. So Universe Beyond is bringing in new players. The more players it brings in, the more people are cool with Universe Beyond. So that 7% is just going to keep shrinking until 5 years from now. The idea of a Universe Beyond-less Magic will seem insane to people because most people only stay in Magic for about a year and a half to 2 years. So whatever the last couple of years has been is going to be what the majority of Magic players think Magic has always been. So figured I'd give you a heads up on that. And then the only other thing that I really want to talk about is the bonus card from the Sheldon Secret Lair. Take a look. It's Keen Duelist. This is a funky card. 1 black and 1 for a 2/2 human wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, you and target opponent each reveal the top card of your library. You each lose life equal to the mana value of the card revealed by the other player. You each put the card you revealed into your hand. So this is a very interesting take on Dark Confidant, and I really love the artwork on this. For real. The idea of turning ink into living beings, like little inklings that can attack you, or turning ink into just modes of attack or other forms of magic is really cool. So having a mage holding a spell book where you've got all of that black ink flowing off, a la Silver Quill, right? The one school from Strixhaven where they specialized in ink magic. It is a very evocative concept. And the idea of these tendrils of darkness leaping out of a page of a book, wrapping themselves around you and forcibly draining life out of you is absolutely intense. And the fact that the entire artwork has been made dark, like his outfit is completely dark, the background is darkened, it's just got a really cool vibe to it. And Sheldon depicted here looks mega epic. The flavor text says, win before you start playing the game. This is a fun include as the bonus card. So, to finish up, I'll remind you once again, the Bloomborough story is a lot of fun. I've got the first 4 installments over on my Fantasy Geographic channel. There's a link here up at the end of the video for you to check it out and down pinned in the top comment. So, thanks for coming by, my friends. Big shout out to my patrons for supporting my channel, and I will see you all in the next video.